Chapter 1. The Four of Us. London's ghosts wear shoes and bleed when cut. They lurk in back alleys, in abandoned warehouses, in pubs where the wallpaper peels and the pints are always flat. Men who should be forgotten, yet somehow endure. 4 of them sat in a cafe that smelled of burnt coffee and fried grease. A place no tourist would step into, where the neon sign buzzed like an insect dying in slow motion. They didn't fit together, not at first glance. A man in a yellow suit that looked more like armor than fashion, tapping a blade against the rim of his cup. A broad-shouldered brute in a football kit, stirring sugar into coffee he'd never drink. A figure with a mask, not a costume mask, but something colder, faceless, staring at the condensation on the window. And the one in red glasses, grinning like the whole night was a joke only he understood. They were strangers to the waitress, to the other night dwellers drifting through, but to each other they were already something else. Not friends, not yet, not a gang either, just 4 men circling the same idea, like wolves around a fire. Jensen, the one with the grin and the glasses, leaned back, lacing his fingers behind his head. "So," he said, voice smooth, mocking even as it carried an edge, "shall we steal ourselves a museum?" Harry in the yellow suit didn't laugh. He never laughed. "If you're taking the piss, say so now. I don't joke about money." Jensen's grin widened. Not the big kind, anyway. Ryan, the footballer, shifted in his chair. He wasn't built for talk. His world was fists and loyalty, and he was waiting for someone to give him a direction. Rhys, faceless, silent, said nothing. He didn't need to. He slid a folded napkin across the table, and when Harry opened it, there was nothing drawn on it. Just a single word, written in neat, deliberate letters. Museum. Harry stared at it, then at Rhys. "Why there?" Jensen leaned in, tapping his shades with one finger. "Because no one's done it. Not like this. You take from a bank, you get headlines. You take from a shop, you get nothing. But a museum makes you ghosts, untouchable. The papers will say we don't exist." Harry's jaw worked, grinding teeth. Ryan kept stirring sugar. Rhys didn't move. Finally, Harry chuckled, or maybe it was just a noise, deep in his throat. "You're mad." Jensen's grin sharpened. Mad doesn't mean wrong. The clock above the counter ticked past midnight. Outside, London shifted in its sleep. Inside, 4 men sat in silence, each one seeing something different in the word on that napkin. For Jensen, it was revenge dressed as glory. For Harry, it was purpose. For Ryan, it was belonging. And for Rhys, it was control. Control over a world that once burned his life to ash. That night, the decision wasn't made with contracts or handshakes. It wasn't spoken at all. It just settled between them, heavy and unmovable, like a stone dropped into water. London had no idea yet, but its ghosts had found each other, and soon they'd leave their mark. Chapter 2. The Museum Job. The British Museum stood like a fortress in the middle of Bloomsbury, all pillars and stone and arrogance. By day it was a temple for tourists and schoolchildren. By night it was something else entirely. Empty, echoing, guarded by men who thought their flashlights were enough to keep history safe. For weeks, Rhys had been watching it. Not the building itself, he didn't care about marble floors or glass cases, but the people. The guards on their breaks, the cleaners in their overalls, the shift changes when one group was too tired to care and the other too eager to notice. He knew them like characters in a play. The smoker by the side door at 2 a.m, the jittery rookie who checked his phone instead of the monitors, the cleaner who always left early to catch the last bus. He never spoke his plan out loud. Instead, he wrote it down in fragments, slid napkins and scraps of paper across cafe tables until the others pieced it together. They gathered in a lockup by the river the night before, 4 shadows beneath the hum of a single bare bulb. "Rolls," Jensen said, pacing like a man about to step onto a stage. His red shades glowed in the light, ridiculous in the dark. "I talk, that's my gift. If someone looks at us too long, I make them forget. Smile, joke, walk away. No problems." "Fine," Harry growled, sitting on an overturned crate. His yellow suit looked out of place, too sharp for the filth around him. "And me?" "You," Jensen said, "are the insurance policy. The door that opens when it's locked, the silence when it's too loud, you know." Harry smirked faintly. Violence was the only thing that ever made sense to him. "Ryan," Jensen continued, turning to the footballer. Ryan sat with his knees apart, hands clasped like a boy in detention. You're the wall, the weight. When something needs moving, when someone needs stopping, that's you. Ryan nodded once. He didn't need more. And him? Harry asked, jerking a thumb at Rhys. Rhys sat in the corner, mask gleaming dull in the bulb light. He hadn't spoken all night. Instead, he reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded sheet of paper, and laid it flat on the crate. Not a map, not really. Just a sketch. Doorways, hallways, blind spots. Every step already marked, every possibility accounted for. Jensen's grin widened. Him? He's the conductor. We just play the notes. The night came cold and damp, London's breath fogging the streets. The four of them moved through the city like pieces of the same shadow. The van parked in an alley, engine ticking. Jensen went first. He strolled toward the side entrance like a man on his way to meet a friend. The guard was there, same as always, cigarette glowing like a firefly. Hell of a night, Jensen said casually, pulling a packet of smokes from his pocket. You mind? The guard blinked, surprised but nodded. A moment later, they were talking about football, about Chelsea's last match, about nothing that mattered. Jensen laughed easily, the red shades flashing with every tilt of his head. The guard never noticed Ryan slip past behind him, heavy boots quiet on the pavement. Inside the museum was a cavern of silence. Ryan moved through the staff corridors, found the CCTV room, and knocked once on the door. It opened. A guard barely had time to register surprise before Ryan shoved him back into the chair, one huge hand clamped around his throat. No sound. No alarm. The guard slumped, unconscious but alive. Harry and Rhys entered next. Harry carried nothing but a small case of tools. Rhys carried nothing at all. They moved through the galleries like whispers, the marble floors reflecting their steps. The jewels sat under glass, lit by a single spotlight that made them look almost holy. Harry worked fast, a blade tracing the edge of the case with surgical precision. The glass lifted clean. Rhys reached in, steady as stone, and plucked the gems from their pedestal. His movements were clinical, almost reverent. No alarms, no shouting, just the hum of the lights, the soft rasp of breath. Jensen rejoined them, still grinning. Told you, ghosts. They left the way they came, calm, deliberate, and visible. By the time the museum realized what had happened, the jewels were already locked in a case beneath the floor of their van, rumbling through streets that smelled of wet stone and diesel. Back at the lockup, they sat in a circle, the loot gleaming between them. For a long moment, no one spoke. The weight of it pressed down on all of them, not just the money, not just the success, but the knowledge of what they'd become. Finally, Jensen broke the silence. He raised a cheap bottle of whiskey, poured a little into paper cups, and lifted his glass. To ghosts, he said. Harry clinked without smiling. Ryan drank like it was water. Rhys just set his cup down, untouched. Outside, London slept. Inside, four men felt something hadn't felt in years. Not happiness, not even triumph. Something heavier, something dangerous. Belonging. Chapter 3. What to do with money. The jewels sat in a steel box on the lock-up floor, glittering under the sickly light. They looked almost out of place there, priceless stones resting in a room that smelled of rust and old oil. For hours after the heist, the four of them just stared at the hall, as if waiting for someone to say it was all a dream. It was Jensen who broke the spell, leaning back on a crate with that familiar grin. Congratulations, lads, we've just nicked history. Harry didn't smile. He never did. He crouched by the box, yellow suit creasing sharp around his knees. History doesn't pay rent. Who's buying? Jensen raised his hands. Easy. I've got contacts. Fences who move this kind of thing. You don't just flog the crown jewels on eBay, do you? Ryan sat with his arms folded, brow furrowed. So we just give it away? Risked our necks for someone else to get rich? That's how it works, Harry snapped. You don't want to end up in a cell trying to sell diamonds in a pub. They each took a cut that night, wrapped in brown envelopes. Enough to taste victory, not enough to make them greedy. Enough to keep the fire alive. When they left the lockup, the streets were still damp with fog. Jensen whistled a tune. Harry lit a cigarette. Ryan dragged his feet like a schoolboy. And Rhys vanished into the shadows without a sound. They didn't know it yet, but that steel box, the jewels inside, the decisions made over it, was the start of the slow unraveling. Ghosts could steal from the city, but they couldn't steal from each other.
that's the first extract from the first book. It's just the first 3 chapters. I hope you enjoyed. Consider buying the books on... what's that thing called? Consider buying the books on Bookmondo. They aren't free, obviously. I can't make them free, sadly, but if I could, I would. But please consider showing support. I'm so proud of this, actually. I'm absolutely proud. I'm a proud father. Like, literally anything. Comments, actually buying the books, you know, just showing support in general. Please. Please. Anyway, bye.